Hello there and welcome to The Lifestyle Show. I'm Mark Rice. Well, the vast majority of people think that everyday manners and common courtesy have declined these days. However, many would welcome a return to the polite and chivalrous attitudes of the past. That's according to new research undertaken by First Direct. Well, joining me in the studio today is psychologist Dr. Gary Wood and Lisa Wood from First Direct. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
My first question's come in from a guy called Harry who says, young people don't seem to display the same kind of manners and courtesy as when I was young, he says. Do you think that manners have declined, Lisa?
Well, we've obviously done the survey, and we know that 76% of people nationally are saying to us that actually they think that those common courtesies are in decline.
That's a lot of people. 3/4 of people are saying that it's in decline.
Absolutely. But I think it's really interesting to make some of the age distinctions here and actually, have those common courtesies declined or have they actually changed? And I think you've got a really interesting take on this, haven't you?
I think if you think about young people, if you looked at the survey, they're less likely to say please and thank you out of all the age groups.
Is that our fault as parents, though? We haven't taught them that.
But it presupposes they don't actually pay appreciation.
Right.
So they might say nice job or good one or cheers mate. It's a kind of different way. Now, older people might not see that as manners. They think, ruffians can't be bothered to say please and thank you. But at the heart of it, the value is still the same. It's somebody showing appreciation. So I think we need to look at how things have probably changed in some way, not totally gone out of the window.
So the older people surveyed are saying, actually, we don't understand younger people's ideas of what courtesy is.
It's about language, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about language changes and, different cultures have different ways of doing things. And I think actually different age groups have different way of doing things. And it's modernising those values that actually is really important.
Well, we'd like to know what you think watching today. We are live, so if you want to send us questions directly into the studio, please do put your question in the box along with your name and it will come through to my computer here in the studio. And indeed, Laura has done just that. Thank you, Laura. She says, do you think we in the UK are more polite than other nations around the world? Difficult one.
That's a difficult one. I think, again, you've got cultural differences. I think when you go abroad, sometimes you may be thinking that people are overly friendly, or they are, sometimes you may be thinking, well, that seems a bit abrupt. It's just that is the social norm. And I think in the past, you think about Brits are often seen as, oh, I'm very sorry. Oh, I'm very sorry.
And the whole stiff upper lip thing.
Yeah, we've got that. We've got that idea. So I think you have to take into account culture. But you think about internationally, a please and a thank you goes a long, long way.
In whatever language, absolutely.
You go over on holiday, you learn, half a dozen words.
And they're always there, aren't they? The please and thank you, absolutely.
Always there.
Much.
And you think about it, if you learn about 50 words, you can do anything. You can get money off your hotel room. You can get a bargain. You can haggle. You can get better service. And it's just that's what we're talking about. Better service.
Is it a question that please and thank you and manners actually unlocks the door to better customer service? Should businesses be thinking about this? Do we think, Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely. It is it's the underpinning of great customer service. We find that it's just the little things, the really little things that people appreciate. So, actually taking time out to pass the time of day, to understand what the customer's saying to you, to react to that, to actually understand them a little bit and have a bit of a banter with them, share a joke if that's appropriate. And it really makes sense, and it makes them feel good about the organisation, and it makes us feel good about the conversation we've just had with them. So absolutely, customer services absolutely underpins everything.
And the one thing is, of course, they've got to feel good coming away from that conversation. We'll come back to customer service in a minute, but just had a question in from Jill. And this is really about social trends, I guess. Okay. What difference has the internet, email, all of those kind of things made to our manners? Text messages and emails are so brief, they can appear very rude. And indeed, you can read them the wrong way too, can't you?
Yeah, the problem with the internet, I suppose, there's kind of devoid of social context, which is why we've developed all these little emoticons to go after.
Yes, so you've got little happy smiley face.
You've got little happy smiles, you've got a sad face, you've got a quizzical face. And it's just to get across, because we've lost the interaction with the internet to some degree. So it's not saying that manners has declined there, it's kind of different way of approaching things. And if you go onto any internet site, a new chat room, and you don't know the rules, you don't know the etiquette, you're referred to as a noob, and that means someone who just doesn't know the ropes, and that annoys everybody else. So even manners and courtesy apply to internet chat rooms.
But actually, I think that's really interesting point, because actually we're communicating more, I think, because of the internet. So, the social media sites, Facebook, people are tweeting on Twitter and following, Twitter.
I know that we've got quite a lot of Twitter followers watching us this afternoon, actually.
Yeah. But things like that actually make communication a whole lot easier, and it helps you get your message across, to all your friends in one go. So actually, you can send your little smiley faces to people and cheer them up, or you can give them a little funny quote for the day that actually puts a smile on the face.
Isn't that less personal, though? Don't we have to worry about that, because that's actually less personal, like sending a group text, something like that?
Yeah, but I think it allows us to do it, whereas actually, we wouldn't necessarily have time to do that otherwise, because how would you do it if you're remote from someone?
It's a bit like, shouting off a rooftop, isn't it? It's hello, nice day. I mean, I've managed to link my Twitter and my Facebook.
Wow.
So I update my Twitter and it automatically updates my Facebook. And yesterday I was at a loss to what to do with the Twitter. So I just wrote, nice day. And then people from Facebook will go, yes, it is,
absolutely,
isn't it fantastic? So I was getting this kind of response, and it's a feel-good, factor.
I'm wondering, when we go back to the actual pure manners idea, is that we have things in our heads, like a man opening a door for a woman, like a husband walking down the outside of the pavement so that someone doesn't get splashed. We have concerns about that, though, and Ken sent me a question saying, I'm scared of holding doors open for women now because of women's lib, because of what they might say. Should I still do it, even if they seem offended? Yet, what are the rules? The rules have changed, haven't they?
My rule's simple, is if somebody's offended by me opening a door for them, I just follow them round for the rest of the day and open every single door until they get used to it. I think putting it in the context of women's lib and feminism, it's only some feminists. I mean, a lot of my best friends are feminists, and I would consider myself a feminist. I think women's rights are important, and it's not all about, sort of being mean-spirited. There are mean-spirited people in any walks of life. You don't put a label on it, it's just that's a miserable person.
It shouldn't be about male or female, should it?
No.
If a female wants to do that for a bloke, then why shouldn't they?
Exactly. It's about the whole notion of sitting on a bus and someone who needs your seat more than you do gets on the bus. But how many people just ignore that fact and bury themselves in their magazine or their newspaper or whatever? It's about, I guess, taking notice of what's going on around you as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was on the bus a couple of days ago, and there was this quite young woman who actually moved her pushchair and allowed someone to come and sit down. And other people on the bus were going, and it's important to recognise you can get a feel-good factor by watching somebody else do something good. It doesn't have to be yourself. And it's almost contagious.
And there are also problems, of course, when you think about how do you approach people. Although you're saying if it goes well, you can come out feeling really good. If it goes badly and you have a bad reaction, then, there's a lot of people affected that way as well. I think we're generally worried about is someone going to think we're a nutter? Wendy sent me a question saying, I believe strongly in manners, but I worry that if I smile at people in the street, they'll think I'm absolutely mad. Good question, because I think we all think that. What do you do? But do you ignore that fact and just do it anyway?
Well, I don't think you possibly... I mean, I think it would possibly be a bit fake to go around smiling at everyone, like, somebody from a shopping channel. It wouldn't, sort of be, everything's fun, everything's wonderful. And that's not real life, is it? And so I think something special about a smile is when you make eye contact with someone. It only needs to be a little smile, or sometimes it's just a nod of a head, just that you've acknowledged. What we're talking about is respect, and it's acknowledging human beings, and that's very simple, and that's universal, and that's across age groups. You kind of
gauge people as well, don't you?
Yeah,
you know from the look on their face whether they're going to respond to you or not, and so you don't do it when you know that actually, he looks as though he's a real grump, and you don't.
Do you think that we've got regional differences here? Because we're based in London for this show right now. Do you think because in big cities it's actually either more dangerous or more difficult to do that than maybe in the country, in the rural areas?
I certainly, I travel by tube a lot, and you can still share those little smiles, of across the tube. I mean, it probably doesn't happen so much because people are in the books and reading, or and people are busy in London. But I've still had those few moments where you kind of, you overhear someone and you look to someone to the left and you kind of go, it still happens, doesn't it?
it's one of those things where you go, I'm taking the nice feeling from that, and when you do have the good interaction, as we've said, it can make you feel really good. Kate asked a very simple question: does doing good deeds really make you feel good? I think it probably does, doesn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, certainly feeling good, if we want to feel good, if we do some kind of a small gesture, it kind of taps into our self-esteem as well. We like to feel that we're good people. It also triggers a little bit, a few chemicals in the brain, feel-good chemicals. And it also kind of tunes our perceptions as well. So if we take stock of the small things and the good things, we're more likely to see good things. I mean, we've got a phrase, haven't we, that bad news comes in threes. We haven't got a comparable phrase for good news.
I hope it's the
just
same
random.
for good news. I mean, I really looked for it in threes.
I think
as
it
well.
should be more for good news. So part of this is a challenge, actually. Let's bring good news up a little bit.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about a challenge. If 75%, 76% of people are saying they want more manners back, it's only ourselves that can do it, really, isn't it?
Well, it's really interesting because the research also said that 76% said that they passed a compliment in the last month. So
interesting.
Yeah, so it's sort of, you might be doing it, but are you feeling that you're getting it back? I think is what that's probably telling us. So that is where you raise the gauntlet.
Don't you find, Gary, that people take compliments really badly these days as well?
I think it's because it's simple lack of practice, isn't it? And the argument is, if we pass more compliments and not phony ones, show appreciation. If somebody does a good job, say you've done a good job. And the more practice, and you've got to think of a compliment like a gift. I mean, if somebody buys a gift, you don't say, well, that's a load of old tat, and throw it over your shoulder.
Not while they're there in front of you, anyway.
Or sell it online. What you do is you would just graciously say thank you. And if you don't feel it at the moment, it's just because you're out of practice. Just graciously say thank you. That's all it needs.
Well, we're about halfway through the show right now, so please do keep your questions coming in. We've had quite a lot so far, but more than welcome. Just tap them into the computer with your name, send them along, and they'll appear on my screen in front of me. Let's just go back to those regional differences, because JP Smith's just sent us a message in saying, I think people have manners in the country. He says, lives in, don't know whether it's a man or a woman, actually, sorry. I live in Norfolk, but when I go to London, I notice a real difference. Were there differences in the survey regionally around the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were their extremes, weren't there? The very far north and the very far south were quite similar. I think the biggest regional difference was around London.
Well, the strange figure that's cropped up is that people are, throughout Great Britain, people are most likely to give up their seats in London for somebody else. Now, I find that quite staggering, having been on the tube. So I think, it's a case of I need to go out with my clipboard and count a few of them. But I mean, it's a challenge to, sort of everyone to sort of indulge in these random acts of kindness, these common courtesy, to see what effects it does have. I mean, treat it like a personal experiment. You just try it out, see what happens. Does it make you feel better?
And the message that's coming across is, if you don't try, you'll never know.
Yes.
I think the other thing as well is, if you do it, you actually start to get it back. So if you carry on doing it, people kind of expect it from you. And so they think, oh, Lisa, she's always saying thank you. Oh, I'll say thank you to her too.
It goes back into very old times, very old proverbs, of course, doesn't it? Smile and the whole world smiles with you. Yeah. Be miserable and they all want to leave you alone. I can't remember the rest of it, but it is very true. Moz has sent us a question. Moz Rocks just sent us a live question in saying, I've just come back from a holiday in America where everywhere I went people were polite and courteous. I think a lot of people say this about America.
Yeah, great.
Made me a little sad, he says, to come back to a country where even the most basic of manners seem lost. So do we think America's winning this war?
I think what you're doing, you're making again cultural comparisons, and I think when it really matters, I think right across the board, people are courteous when it really matters. I mean, you could argue that America is just a little bit more too courteous.
Is it not that they're just a more service-related society? So when you go into a restaurant, their managers tell them that they've got to be right on top of it.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. Yeah.
I mean, there are. I've been to the States last year, and fantastic customer service, and it makes you feel so good about the place that particularly restaurants. They're fantastic at it in restaurants.
I don't mind if it's a bit fake. To be honest, I'd like it in the supermarket in Britain. I really would. Yeah. I'd like the person behind. I say to the person behind the counter, "Have a nice day," and they look at me as if I am completely mad.
Yeah, I tend to say that as well. Yeah.
but in America, it comes the other way. They say, "Have a nice day," and you go, "Oh, okay, thanks."
But it does work if you're in shops and you say, "How's your day going?" Or especially, I always make a point, if someone is actually rushed off their feet, I actually acknowledge that they're rushed off the feet, and they can look down, and you just acknowledge that. And what we're talking about is acknowledgement. And you tend to get better service. I don't do it to get better service. I do it just to acknowledge that somebody's doing a good job.
Yeah, and it's a really important point actually about actually tuning into people, because that's one thing that we really sort of stress in when we're training our people in terms of telephone calls, because over the telephone it's difficult. You've not got the face-to-face
call
contact.
centres anywhere obviously face this problem in lots of different companies, don't
so
they?
you've got to be really tuned into people to have that sense of, you know, do they want to pass the time of day with me? Have they got time to, you know, develop a conversation, have a joke, make them feel good about the conversation they're having? Or are they actually in a rush? Because you can sense that about people, can't you? And that's a really important thing. I think that's great customer service when you are delivering that.
And are they going to take the time to listen to the way I pronounce my name so they get it right through the rest of the call? Tiny little thing, but it is tiny little things like that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
People add an S to my name, which is infuriating.
Yeah. Exactly right. Lisa sent us a question. Thank you, Lisa, saying, should we be saying thank you to people for doing their jobs? I think too often we ignore people who do everyday jobs. When was the last time you said thank you to a bus driver? Actually, last week. I can say I do actually do that. I do get off and I say thank you. If I'm up that end of the bus, of course in London they make you get off down the other end.
Yeah,
that's true.
I do it every time, and I've noticed also it's right across the board. Even young people, I mean, young people get some bad press about sort of not having manners, but you do get them making some gesture of appreciation. I mean, they'll say cheers or thank. You know, it's mate, not be
right,
thanks.
Mate. Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
mate. Cheers, mate. And it'll be something like that. So there is that appreciation, and it is across the board. And I've noticed that kind of, perhaps over the past 5 years, has made a real resurgence. When I was a kid, it always used to happen. Then it kind of disappeared. Yeah. I think the nasty 80s had a lot to answer for. And now I think people are tuning in to say, yeah, it's just important.
James has sent us a question saying, I'm amazed at how informal sales and customer service people are now. I regularly get called mate by people I've never met before, and I have a simple motto: if you want me to buy something, call me sir. I have to say I pretty much agree with that one.
The thing I don't like in shops is when you go in and they say, how are you? And I'm thinking,
before you've even looked at anything.
Well, who are you? So that's probably and the reason they do that is because if they speak to you, you're probably less likely to steal something. So there's a psychology there.
You think it's that?
It is that. That's the psychology behind this. If they're your mates, you're not going to steal from them.
Right.
But I kind of find that kind of fake. And I think what we're not talking about is that kind of fake. They don't care if I'm having a good day or not. What we're talking about is genuine concern about having rapport with people and recognising that, you know, we face challenging times. This is one aspect of our lives we can take control. I mean, if I say to you, good morning, and you could snap, is it? I mean,
but it's less likely I'm going to do that.
But people do. So what have you achieved? You know, what would you achieve? The answer is nothing. If you just say good morning back and you smile back, even though you're not feeling fantastic, that does have a knock-on effect.
Does that mean it's dangerous to go into work or wherever and say, morning, how are you? Because do we really want to know? I mean, the answer that we're looking for is fine, thanks. And that makes us feel good about our day.
I suppose that is terrible. That we don't expect people to sort of.
You wouldn't expect someone to go, "Oh, well, I've had a terrible." Exactly.
You don't tell them. You don't want to hear about somebody's internal organs first thing in the morning.
Not first thing in the morning.
And that's probably you're going to get from some people. Most people understand that it's a courtesy, though.
I think, yes, just depends what mood you hit them in, really,
yeah.
doesn't it? Pauline sends a question. Thank you for your question, Pauline, saying, how can we reintroduce manners into society? Kids that have manners seem to be in the minority these days, which probably means the parents haven't taught them. When did we stop teaching manners? And Pauline says, my kids have great manners, I have to say. I'm sure they do.
I'm not sure that kids don't have good manners. Yeah. I think it's kind of like we've been talking. It's different. Isn't it? And I think if you're going to teach, you've got to teach values. I don't think it serves anything at all just to have some kind of script that you follow. It has to be generated deeper down. You know, what are your values? Do you want to be respected? Do you want to be appreciated? And that's the basis from which manners and courtesy should come.
And it's the language thing as well, isn't it?
Again,
we've
absolutely, the difference between young people and street talk and everything else.
I mean, you're never going to get young people doffing their baseball caps, are you?
Those days
not
have
going
gone.
to happen.
Yes.
And that's not bad manners. That's different. Yeah. It's just different.
Yeah.
Do you think that partly we're looking back and going, oh, and remembering with rose-tinted spectacles?
I think certainly we can all look back, and I remember as a kid there were some really miserable old so-and-sos that you encountered, the same as you do today. Yeah. And I think what we've talked about is that we do make an effort to communicate in many more different ways. And there are courtesies online, face to face. These courtesies are there, and they're there for a reason, because it's a shortcut to an interaction. You don't have to establish, I respect you, you respect me, we are decent human beings. You don't have to go through all this. You're writing down the ground rules on your on your whiteboard. You just assume, basically, we all want to be treated with a modicum of decency, of respect and appreciation, and it just cuts down so much of the.
I do think though there's a little bit about current times, recession, that actually kind of makes you look back and think about the good old days. But I think there is an element of rose-tinted glasses, because when you look back at the good old days, there's lots of good things, but as you said, there's still the grumpy old, the grumpy old people and all kind of things. Well,
you can get more information about this by going to the First Direct website at firstdirect.com, but you've got a video up there, haven't you? Because First Direct has actually taken, practicing what they preach and taken it out onto the streets. What can we see there?
We did. We took actually some of our people. So we took our own people. They're not actors at all. And we took them out onto the streets of York, and we gave them tiny little bags of chocolates and a small bunch of flowers. And we just let them loose and said, right, go and do random acts of kindness, and let's see what the reactions are. So the video is all about the reactions of the people, and it was great fun to do it. And hopefully you'll have great fun watching it as well.
That's brilliant. And that's firstdirect.com. Well, Dr. Gary Wood and Lisa Wood, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's all we've got time for, but I hope that we have raised the bar for some manners in your life. So a very good afternoon, and thank you for watching.